Welcome to the realm of shadows and secrets, where history meets hidden agendas and the past echoes through time. Today, we're diving headfirst into the world of Assassin's Creed Mirage. As a general note, this footage has been captured solely on PlayStation 5, and I have kept the gameplay on screen as spoiler-free as possible. In this entry, we take charge of Basim ibn Ishaq, a familiar figure making a comeback from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Navigating the Golden City of Baghdad during his early years, you will witness his initiation into the Hidden Ones, unraveling the events that shape him into the assassin that Eivor encounters in the years that follow. Based on the game's marketing, it seems this entry will be leaving behind the RPG elements of Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. Before we dive deep into this review, I want to make one thing crystal clear. I've been an ardent Assassin's Creed fan since day one. I'm also one of the very rare souls who absolutely enjoyed Odyssey, although I can see it has its flaws. So after a few misses, what am I expecting? I would say a compact, interconnected world to explore, a gripping narrative, but above all, the thrill of once again taking center stage as an assassin. Does Mirage rekindle the hidden flames of the Creed's inception, or will it set the Brotherhood ablaze? Let's find out together in my breakdown of Assassin's Creed Mirage. Let's dive deep into the animus. Graphic-wise, this game looks gorgeous. The depiction of Baghdad is a true marvel. Each sand-swept alley and bustling market breathe life into this ancient metropolis. The presentation here is crisp and holds strong detail. The colours and lighting pop in just the right ways. The sun feels so golden and the night stands so still. You will find yourself noting that something feels off. Sometimes the graphics feel rushed and unrefined, leaping from amazing to outdated in mere seconds. It's almost like the developers constantly swap between high-res and low-res models for the sake of production speed. As for the character models, they go through a similar experience. It's like attempting to draw with your non-dominant hand. It's not as extreme, but there's a noticeable lack of finesse here. The character rendering feels quite a bit off. It's like trying to replicate a masterpiece with a slightly shaky brush. While it's not a total disaster, it definitely doesn't hit the mark of precision that we've come to expect in modern gaming. Now, what about the gameplay? The first thing I noticed is how much they've dialed back on the RPG elements, and this felt so good. I'm not entirely against RPG mechanics, and for the most part they do work from a core gameplay level, but I just think they needed to hit the brakes a bit. Having 60 resource types and requiring 8 weapon upgrades for just a 10% damage boost and a perk, it's a bit too much for me. And that's where I'm pleased to say they return to the fundamentals here. The movement and traversal feels solid, if a bit janky, but that's as expected. It is worth noting that the game does run on Valhalla's engine, which doesn't quite complement the traversal style. Basim moves identical to Eivor, maybe with a slightly faster pacing. The significant difference is that Basim has a full playground to explore, whereas Eivor had more of a sandbox experience with limited options. Stealth mechanics are done really well, serving up all the classic tricks. Hiding spots, diverse assassination styles, the good old whistle from the bushes, and your trusty toolkit. Toss in those mercenaries, which have also made a return as well, and you get the whole assassin shebang. Now, if you're anything like me, you always go full stealth mode. But picture this, that one guard who was off grabbing a snack when you took down all of his buddies strolls in, and bam, you're busted. Well, at that point, it's time to fight. And that's why personally, the combat just didn't hit the mark for me. It feels like they've stripped away the need for skill, replacing it with a parry and counter system for those lightning fast insta-kills. Every now and then, these beefy guards will appear and throw out attacks that require you to dodge. And when you're facing a mob of enemies, they seem to synchronize their attacks, demanding dodges all at once. With this new combat system, the diversity we had is now gone. While it wasn't consistently thrilling, the old system had many more layers compared to this basic approach. I get the idea behind it, blending the combat from the earlier games with a sprinkle of RPG elements. However, this leap of faith falls flat, seeming like a significant step back from the combat we experienced in Valhalla. Definitely not a phrase I throw around lightly. But how does this translate into the abilities? Well, the skill tree has undergone a thoughtful redesign with a more compact structure. This transformation is a boon, allowing you to tailor your skill selections to match your playstyle. The emphasis is placed on meaningful choices, building a strong progression system. However, it's worth noting that the compact nature of the skill tree seems to heavily tilt towards stealth abilities. I think this is why combat feels a bit dull. There's no real depth to it beyond basic attack and defense patterns. It's a shame. We could have had the best of both worlds, a sneaky stealth system and thrilling combat in one neat package. It seems the developers have always struggled to give us a 2-speed combat system for the Assassin's Creed titles. The crafting system has also made a return, and I'm all for it. Now let me clarify, you will still be out there gathering resources for crafting upgrades and schematics are now part of the deal, but the beauty is, it all feels more organic. You naturally obtain resources just by playing the game. No need to specifically hunt them down, plus they've dialed back the number of upgrade levels on items, making everyone happy in the process. Exploring is pretty much as expected. I won't dive into the nitty gritty, but guess what's making a comeback? Those trusty oil barrels, the barricades, and the good old locked doors. And let me tell you something, these doors have trust issues. Barricade first, ask questions later. This exploration style doesn't really excite me. I'm relieved it's toned down compared to the past entries. It's not terrible, it's just not my cup of tea. I get it, some folks enjoy these puzzles, but personally, I just want to move forward. I've got like 200 more doors waiting for me to swing them open. The world map is just the right size, neither too big nor too small. Compared to the earlier games, it strikes a perfect balance between city and wilderness areas, making exploration feel well-rounded and enjoyable. I would say there is about 2/3 less collectibles in the world, which is honestly a great change. This keeps the fun in exploring without drowning you in all of that repetitive stuff. In a universe filled with massive open world games, Assassin's Creed doesn't bring anything new to the table. Mirage is more focused and streamlined, but it's not breaking any new ground, giving up its sheer size for a more focused adventure. Now, turning our spotlight to the main characters, back when they first revealed who the protagonist for this game was, I was hyped. Basim's character is pretty deep, at least at first appearance. He is naturally a younger version of the character that we will meet in Valhalla, and this comes with the territory of Basim having a different outlook on life and a generally jarred perspective. For the most part, this does work pretty well. However, it was disappointing to find that Basim does not hold most of the complexity that made his arc in Valhalla interesting. Deep at his core, he is very basic. This sort of feels like the Phantom Menace of Basim's story. If this game had a gold star of standard, it would be Roshan. Her voice artist does a phenomenal job, and I find her dialogue to be the most interesting in the entire game. When she peels back the curtains, giving you small glimpses into her life, it always leaves me wanting more. You get the general sense that she has many layers of complexity, however you never really understand just how deep that goes, and this works to the advantage of the story. Sadly, the other characters don't get as much attention, and that's a letdown because I genuinely like them, but they're in the shadows far too often. If this game had let them shine just a little bit more, it would have changed things for the better. There's a lot of potential for an incredible story with this bunch of characters, and Ihal in particular seems to miss out on it the most. So this might be a bit of a bold take. The game spins its tale through the investigation system that we've seen before. You find a clue, setting off a chain of missions to uncover the next piece of the puzzle, giving the traditional mission style a run for its money. And I gotta say, for the most part, I was into it. The investigation tab visually lays out the story and clues, a feature I appreciated for easy revisits. However, instead of feeling like a smooth A to Z story, it did come off as a collection of related side quests and sub-stories that piece together at the end, leaving the story feeling a tad disjointed. Still, it was a nice change of pace. The world events are back, now labelled as Tales of Baghdad. I wasn't a big fan of this setup in Valhalla, but surprisingly, it fits nicely here, and they've toned it down quite a bit. Unlike before, the tasks aren't mind-boggling, leaving you stuck for ages. Well, except for one tale that still managed to stump me. The Hidden One contracts are like an extra treat, presenting objectives that feel almost like story missions, complete with meaningful rewards. They offer a welcome dose of variety, and I found myself quite engaged. Maybe not enough to tackle them all, but the ones that I did were genuinely entertaining. Additionally, the game also sports a currency called Kidmar tokens. These are 3 types of tokens that can be used to hire mercenaries, clear notoriety, as well as a few other options. They can be obtained from completing Hidden One contracts or swiping them from the locals. They just generally felt out of place and unnecessary. It felt like this was a mechanic created to ensure players take part in a healthy dose of side content to assist them through the main objectives. If you plan on using these tokens, you might want to go on a pickpocketing spree to collect them. It will make for a smooth journey. There are also artifacts, lost books, and calling shards to collect. Aside from that, it's your usual gameplay loops. Eavesdrop on the baddies, kill the baddies, loot the chests, do the things, break the things, unlock the doors, and assassin the things. A recipe for stealth slices and looting delights. Delving into the realm of sound, it's a success. The stabby stab sounds hit the mark, and the ambiance, vibration of the world, and natural life are all present. The voice acting by the main cast is strong. Despite an occasional stiffness, which is really a tradition to the typical Assassin's Creed style by now. I will say though, Rashaan's voice actress deserves a standing ovation. She was amazing. Now, the music was decent, but nothing really struck me as a standout. The themes are used well, but it was a hard landing to stick. It's clear the composer is new to the Assassin's Creed series, and while I like some distinction, it felt entirely like a score from a differing series. Other AC games strike a better balance, giving a traditional score with a twist that matches the story's location. I miss that vibe in Mirage. So let's talk about the technical performance. This one is a bit interesting. The game played pretty stable, only a few noticeable dips in frames, and there was no crashes. Yet there were quite a few bugs that popped up pretty frequently. For instance, when opening treasure chests, sometimes no loot would appear. Also, visual glitches and wonky collisions happened all the time, like eavesdropping events not triggering and not being able to climb off ledges. Near the story's end, a bug during an investigation set me back about 15 minutes due to an odd autosaving glitch. Just a minor hassle, however annoying nonetheless. The word of today is manually save. In a nutshell, Mirage brings back the essence of the old school Assassin's Creed gameplay, which is a welcome touch. The return to the social stealth added a much needed depth and immersion, however the combat does leave room for improvement if it's to be called enjoyable. The absence of a modern day storyline was a letdown, and the game answers none of the questions that I thought it would. So here's the punch. Mirage represents a step in the right direction, and I hope it will persist on this much needed path. I would recommend this entry to newcomers of the series and longtime fans alike. I truly hope that answered your burning questions, and as we fade back into the shadows, don't forget to hit that like, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button. Until our next rendezvous, fellow assassins, farewell.